will do. We should be live. It's still not. I'm waiting for the page to switch over. There we go. But we should be live. Go ahead, Ahmed.
Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome to another mentorship meeting. So today we're gonna ask people in this cohort for feedback for the current round. Basically, issue number 14 in the mentorship repo discusses all the points that we want to get feedback on, mainly the process, the channel, the duration, the expectations, and also if any of the mentors or mentees faced issues, and is there a better way to reach out and reach out to us if that was easy, stuff like that. Maybe it's a good idea to introduce each other. Yeah. Do you want to start, Dan? You're muted.
Hi, I'm Dan Shaw, one of the team members of the Node.js group. And in this past cohort, I was dragged kicking and streaming into being a mentor. And in that, I asked to be paired up with Ahmed, who is the champion for this initiative. So yeah.
Cool. AJ?
I'm also a team member. I'm not involved in mentoring or menteeing currently, but I'm just here to help facilitate the process.
Awesome. I'm also on the mentorship team. I was mentee for Dan in this cohort. It was amazing. I benefited a lot. I'll share some of my experience. Thank you, Dan, so much for the support. Yeah, that's basically it. Dan?
Hello, I was one of the mentors for this program. It was likewise a really good experience, and I'm excited to see where the program goes.
You're also part of you joined the mentorship team, right?
I believe I am part of the mentorship team, yes.
Awesome. Jennifer?
Hi, my name is Jennifer Bland. I was actually a mentee, and Benjamin was my mentor for the beta version of the program.
All right. I'm not sure. Got
David, right?
Oh,
David,
David.
David, Ahmed, David.
Hey, Ahmed, great to meet you. I'm David. I'm part of the mentorship team. I think Dan asked me to join because I run JSLA, long-running JavaScript events in Los Angeles, and we have a mentorship program that is on our third round. And while I haven't had a mentee relationship in this program, I've been sharing some of our findings and ours.
That's awesome. I'm sorry I've been away for the past month, so I got a little bit disconnected from mentorship and also from the ComCom. So I need some follow-up. Yeah.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Before we start asking for feedback, I'm interested to know what the current status of mentorship is. Are people still continuing with the mentorship, or did the cohort stop?
Yeah, I'll give you a brief rundown of the last 3 meetings, last month and a half or so. So we had a really nice session in Vancouver. Came away from that and kind of had some time to set up the the second year, like not the second cohort of the mentorship program, but look at all right, what we need, how to better execute. Invited David, to share some of his experience with JSLA. We also reached out to the Node.js Foundation to see if they can offer us a little bit of logistical support with some of the cat herding that we end up doing that is tends to be really expensive in terms of time commitment. So Tracy was very gracious to volunteer to participate there a bit more. Oh, and I'm talking about Sophia, and there's Sophia. Sorry, Sophia, if you've been waiting. So then, with that sort of cry for help, we were able to sort of refocus. AJ's situation is settled. My situation has settled, and so we are finally bringing together our cohort 1 retrospective, and then following this, we still need to do and plan out the next cohort. And Sophia and the Node.js Foundation team, Tracy Lee, leading that, is going to work with us to sort of streamline some of the processes. Maybe put in place a mailing list and some email automation to make sure people get confirmation, can just automate a little bit around the edges to take away some of the logistical pain of the numerous individuals that have raised their hands. That we just need a mechanism to make sure that everyone's getting the feedback that they want when they want it.
That's awesome. Okay, Sophia doesn't have an audio. So Sophia is in the foundation, and she's willing to help us out. Okay, that's awesome.
Hi, Sophia. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, so I guess it's a good time to start rounding up the cohort, getting some feedback. So first of all, we had several iterations over the mentorship on how the process, how to get started with the process, how to do some of the stuff. So basically, the first thing that I guess it's a good place to start is asking how do you find the process of getting matched up, and from A to Z, basically, we send an email, and we also do the kickoff meeting, and we do stuff over Slack, the communication, and we used an application to coordinate the meeting time for the kickoff meeting. So I'm interested if you have any feedback regarding the process and how we can improve it. I can start by saying that it was very tiring for me and AJ to do the matching process. We tried to split it up, but it required lots of time and coordination, and also lots of back and forth. And we had some mentors that went missing after we had the meetings set up. So we had some discussions on how to avoid that in the future, but we didn't get a final resolution for that. So maybe Jennifer, if you can start.
Sure, I'll be glad to start. The way I got paired up was I signed up on the Google Docs that when you first started off with the mentorship program. And I do agree that kind of goes into when you sign up into a black hole. And if what you were saying, Tracy Lee does trying to work on the email automation, at least something that you get back to the user to say, hey, we received your application. That would be great. I got chosen, and basically I got an email saying, you've been paired up with Benjamin and you're going to be working on this area. Is that okay? I don't think that there was really any discussion on what options were available. It was kind of like, you're here. It's kind of, it wasn't really a take it or leave it, but it was kind of leaning toward that a little bit. That said, it was a great choice for me. I look at what some of the other beta teams, what they were doing, and I don't think I would have been a good fit on those, but the one I'm on was a good one. I think if in terms of matching, feedback that I would give on that is, if there's a way to change the sign up form where you can list and describe the areas that people might be selected to contribute on the project, and then allow people to check off all the ones that they might be interested in, and then also maybe rank their first choice or their second choice. That would make, you were talking about frustration for you trying to figure out how to pair people up. That makes things a little bit easier. You're like, okay, I need to assign people for, whatever section. Then you can just select, if there are 1,000 plus people that have signed up, but 200 have signed up from one area, then you're just looking to fit in 200 people, not 1,000. It makes things a lot easier. And I think the descriptions will help people to pick off what they need, and then maybe a list of skill sets that somebody would need in that area. So in terms of the matching process for me, just a quick summary is it worked out well for me. I think I was assigned an area, but it was a good assignment for me. I think that being able to allow people to select areas of their interest when they sign up would be a good addition. And then also to give feedback to people when they do sign up that's, basically like, hey, I got your form. It may take 6 months to a year or, whatever that time frame may be, but, we've got your feedback. So that's my feedback on that one point.
Yeah, that's a really good suggestion. Actually, we should have a list of the scopes. I believe part of why we don't have that at the moment is because we didn't have a list of mentors and we didn't know the scopes.
We didn't know, right?
Yeah. Hopefully for the next cohort, we can prepare it better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we actually mentioned that in one of the previous meetings, I think maybe last week, or last meeting, that we would, since the mentors are the limiting factor, we would maybe figure out who we can get to mentor and then do basically just what Jennifer suggested, which is list the scopes we have available and let people check what they're interested in. So yeah, we're looking to do that.
And if you've got a list of mentors that you are going to be going with next, and if you do have the capability of doing email automation, it might be worthwhile to send an email to everybody that has signed up, however many that might be, 1,000 plus people, and just say, we're very close to putting it in. Here are the areas, go here, and then, maybe have them fill out another Google form. Because then that will allow you to get people that are definitely interested because they're making the effort to fill out the form. And then you can start, sequestering people into areas of their interest or areas that they can easily contribute.
We didn't do any meetings publicly that at that stage, right?
At what stage?
At the stage of bringing folks back into the mentor pairing that involved the mentees and the mentors in the actual meeting. I think we might have tried.
Yeah, I don't think we ever succeeded.
Okay, right. Yeah,
Yeah,
we don't need the meetings, to gather everyone together. The automation would be the the best way to get there. Our hammer that we have is mostly this meeting. So I guess that's probably why I apply that.
I think maybe for a future cohort, maybe less is more. Like, don't have that many categories of like, don't get too specific on the skill set that you're trying to pair off. Just because I think I found with Jennifer, like, just the first month's probably just going to be basic care and feeding of Node.js. Like, how do you get tests up and running? How do you do all that stuff? And then it becomes probably more important over time, I guess, your specific area of interest. But I don't think it matters that much for really early on in the mentorship program.
Right on.
Yeah. I think I would add on to that. Do we know how many mentors we're likely to have available? Like, order of magnitude? Like, is it 10? Is it 100?
I don't believe we've really started recruiting
Right.
officially yet.
Yeah, I would put it closer to 10 than 100.
So, I mean, if we have 10 mentors, there is a maximum of 10 categories.
Right.
And I mean, unlikely that there would be 10 categories. Like, how many categories could there possibly be with 10 mentors?
Right. That was another idea I'd had a couple meetings ago, was to potentially focus on one, which is just kind of going the opposite direction of what Ben's saying, I think, but maybe focus on like just the build group or something, or whatever group, and get as many mentors as we can to eliminate some of the factors of like the complexity of running it, and just be able to focus more on how we make this work with one group and then scale up. But I can see the
well, I think having one category is in line with what Ben was saying.
Is it? Okay. I thought he was saying it didn't necessarily matter as much what. Well, okay.
I think I was more getting at, yeah, I think that's fair. Like, I feel that probably just specialization doesn't matter that much right out of the gate. It's more important to just let people dive in.
Yeah, pulling some of kind of our retrospective, I think our heavy indexing on the specialization came from the challenge of doing two-sided matching. So we're matching mentors, and we're matching mentees, and kind of trying to do things in the middle. Whereas with David's advice, basically saying, all right, this is the mentee pool, period. There's no matching over here, that much. And we're just, doing the selection process, pairing up the mentees there.
I mean, I will say the discrepancy of numbers makes this less like a matching and more like a lottery, to be honest.
Yeah. Right.
On that note, I was thinking, this is kind of out of left field and just something to think about later, but what if we started recruiting for people who might be interested in more of like a lecture style thing that would, I guess, go back to the one-to-many we talked about in the beginning, where we could throw a whole bunch of people at them and just have them kind of teach like a class sort of every 2 weeks or whatever for an hour, and have people in attendance ask questions and that kind of stuff, but have the purpose of that class be the same as the mentorship program, to drive those people towards being able to contribute to Node. I don't know how that would work or if it would work, but it's an idea.
Are you planning on continuing with a one-on-one between mentor and mentees, or are you going to do one-to-many or a combination of both?
The idea of this first cohort was to try a combination of those things, but with most of our mentors dropping off, I think we ended up with just one-on-one in our sample size.
Yeah, the ones that work were one-on-ones.
Yeah.
So you're going to keep going forward with one-on-one?
But there was expressed interest in, one could do the one-to-many format, and that could potentially, address the backlog that we have. I think we've yet to prove that is effective in this model.
Yeah, I think from what I remember from previous meetings, the purpose of this was to get more Node contributors.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if a lecture format would, I don't know. What do people think? Like, would that achieve the goal?
I would not have been interested in that format.
Mm-hmm. It's great feedback.
Yeah, that's good feedback.
Yeah.
I was if one of the mentors want to do like one-to-many, I don't think we should like oppose that idea.
Right. What I was saying that would be a good addition to the types we offer. Like just to open it up to another type of mentor that may not be interested in doing direct mentoring to one person or even to two people, where they would rather just kind of talk and let people learn from them. But yeah, maybe that wouldn't work. I don't know. That's just a idea that crossed my mind.
So time check, we're at the half hour. Let's make sure we get our retrospective questions in so we can
Right.
get the feedback that we need.
Okay. Like one of the most important feedback we're gonna get is around the process. So I want to like get all the details that we can get. Is there any comments that you have other than what you've already said? Benjamin and Jennifer.
So are you talking about all of the points in the
no, just the process. Just getting matched up and joining the cohort, basically.
I think working with Benjamin was actually wonderful. I mean, I learned quite a bit. Being able to step through things and being able to show how it works is, he mentioned earlier, the first, couple of weeks is just, showing them how things work, how to get things set up and so forth. But then it also involved into being able to actually start making contributions, which, keeps the interest of a mentee that's in the program, because, they're like, after we learn all this, now we're able to apply it, and you actually see some success in being able to see something you've contributed. And I think that was worthwhile doing. So that's just my feedback on the matching process.
Awesome. Okay.
My feedback was just going to be that it was really smooth once things started getting going, but we did have, I was actually going to originally try to mentee 2 people, and that fell through just due to scheduling issues, and it kind of was hard to get, we tried to kick off around the same time, but in practice with a bunch of people's schedules being involved at the same time, this was hard. And I think by the time we actually fell through on the second mentee, I realized that it would have taken too much of my time to do 2 folks anyways. So unless it was like maybe you're meeting with 2 people at once on a weekly basis, I think it would be really hard to, at least with my work schedule, to have done more than one. So just feedback.
Awesome. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the mentorship duration. So I'm not exactly sure like what was the duration of the first cohort, to be honest. So
it may have been 6 months by now, right? We're being brutally honest.
Again, if you want to start, Jennifer.
Yeah, Benjamin and I worked together for a little over a month, maybe a month and a half. During that, we had one holiday that hit us, and I think also Benjamin was out for a few days on holiday. But our program was just over a month and a half that we worked together.
Okay. Do you think 1 month? Also, that's a good point, because there's holidays and stuff like that. Maybe we should like give a breathing room to the duration, like maybe 1 month plus some additional time. So fully cover the program. But first, do you think 1 month was like short or long enough, or?
Like I feel 1 month would be a little bit short. I think a month and a half or 2 months, maybe more ideally, just so you can. I think it would let you bite off, like let you really get to the point where you've addressed one actual issue on Node. I think, which would be, whereas I think that would be hard in a month. That'd be pretty tight.
How often were you two attempting to meet?
Once a week.
Okay.
We met on Monday evenings. It was a 3-hour time difference with him in California, me on the East Coast. So we would meet in the evenings. So when he'd get off work, and it would be late evening my time. So it worked out fine. And in terms of the duration, I agree 1 month is too short. 2 months would probably be significant. I think if you look at the most common, most companies do 10 to 12 days of holidays on the schedule, depending on which ones they celebrate. And I'm just speaking from a US perspective. So mentees that come from other countries, of course, their holiday schedules are different. But 2 months would be good. 3 months might be also acceptable. And then in terms of the duration, and I'm going to jump over also to the number 4 point, which is the participant expectations. Benjamin had another person that he was going to work with that fell through. You had a couple of mentors that fell through originally. That's going to happen with anything in life. So my after going through it, my feedback would be to consider using 2 people at the same time with one mentor. And the reason why I suggest that is if something happens, if one drops out, then that whole pairing process just doesn't completely fizzle because one went away and you were doing one-on-one. That allows the other one to continue on. Plus that allows the 2 mentees to possibly work together outside of the mentor and do like pair programming to work on their contributions, so that when they get back together, like if it's every 2 weeks. All right, hold on. My cat wants to make a cameo here. Then that allows them to be involved and contribute. And hopefully you would keep those 2 interested for the whole 2 months or 3 month period that's on there. If you were going to do mentoring, if a mentor mentors 2 people and they're at different times, as Ben said, that's probably going to be just taking up too much of their time to do 2 people at different times. But if you do 2 at the same time, I think that would help. And then that sets the expectations, because then it becomes the natural, I want to keep up because, the other mentee is doing something. So you bring that into the picture also.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea, but I believe if we're gonna like succeed doing that, maybe we need like to make sure that like both mentees can attend at the same time. This way, like we can address also Benjamin's concern about not having enough time, basically.
Can I kind of flip the time question and sanity check our original sort of sketched out time frame, which is 6 months. So we talked about 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, but like let's talk about 6 months if both from a mentee and a mentor perspective. I can briefly touch on the fact that for me 6 months may have been too much, though. Like the bond and the relationship that Ahmed and I have established as a mentee mentor pair has continued on after the time, and I could see that lasting for 6 months, but I think In my case, I would have probably drifted off, before the end of the 6 months.
I personally still would like to see eventually a rolling cohort, because I just don't think the one size fits all is going to be sufficient for all the different types of things people may want to achieve in their mentorship, or the time commitment that different mentors will have. And I don't want to lose mentors because they can't do the full 6 months, but maybe they could do a great job in 3 months. So that's what I'd like to eventually see, but I do know we have to get more of a process down and get it standardized and figured out how it works before we can really move to that.
I mean, my feeling is that just because, say, a 2-month period or a 3-month period ends, it doesn't mean that, like, Jennifer won't be able to reach out to me afterwards. It's a way to kind of just outreach to the community and connect people. And I think the one of the big benefits of the mentorship program is that it can be a little daunting just knowing how to get your first little bit of work into a project, and just having it be long enough that someone is comfortable with the process, knows who to talk to. I would think then they can kind of take off with some more self-directed learning, but still have a point of contact for helping them land pull requests, helping them socialize the work they're doing. So I think, I think you can kind of have the best of both worlds with not the world's longest time commitment, but the understanding that you'll still be a point of contact after that.
Makes sense. There might be an 80-20 there, that 80% of the value is in the first period of time.
And also, if you do 6 months and you've got a mentor and a mentee, or even if you have 2 mentees with 1 mentor, in a 6-month period, I guarantee that you're going to have 100% chance that one or all 3 of those people are hitting their holiday time, whether they're taking off for a week or 2 weeks. And if that happens, let's say, somebody takes off for 2 weeks for holiday, and then, the mentee takes off for another 2 weeks, that's a different 2 weeks, you've completely eaten into a month at a minimum out of 6. Whereas if you were doing a 3-month period, it might be easier to go through, and keep people on there. And then if you keep it shorter with 3 months, like I did a coding boot camp, and one of the things that the coding boot camps do is when a student graduates, they will select certain number of them to come back as like teaching assistants and help out in the next cohort. You could also utilize something along that lines where, 3 months you go through and then come back as a teaching assistant to help out. Maybe you end up with more mentees or something like that. But because you've got a teaching assistant as a possibility, as a different model going through.
Speaking of the teaching assistant, I'm curious, did you guys feel like you could have used more support from either the team or some other role? Or did you feel like just the 2 of you were able to kind of make things work on your own pretty well?
I think what we accomplished, I didn't feel like I needed anything other than, the support and the mentorship that I got from Benjamin.
Ben?
I think Jennifer did a lot of work organizationally, making sure we were updating our issue and recording the meetings, which I think just making sure we formalize some of the process that Jennifer helped bring in would be valuable. I think as long as there's a template that everyone can apply, that would work well. But definitely Jen did some heavy lifting.
Good.
I think we were needed the most when there were issues with like the matching process, and like the mentors, some of the mentors like stopped replying on their Slack or emails or stuff like that. This is where we were needed the most, basically.
So if we bring in the Node Foundation to help with that aspect of things, then they could potentially leverage like the moderation team and things like that for that. Is that accurate?
You had me until you brought in the moderation team. So what would we be trying to achieve with the moderation team?
Or not necessarily moderation, just or do they have resources that could fill that role if we've got foundation support?
Not really. So, moderation, moderation is going to moderate, and sorry, what moderation would bring to the table is, the resources and the spaces that we're creating on GitHub and Slack. Moderation team commits to supporting. So, but it is, let's call it a reactive body more than an active body that's going to do operational stuff with us. That's what foundation team can really bring to the table. The operational stuff is foundation, not necessarily moderation.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if we're gonna have to do that as a team from our side, either get someone to help us with specifically that, or we're gonna have to split up these tasks between us.
We do have resources in the moderation team, they're from the foundation on unconscious bias. It's okay. Absent not having anything about unconscious bias, it's something. I don't know that we are going to, since we're pairing folks with experienced individuals in the project that have learned that follow the code of conduct, that learn how to work effectively in Node. I don't know if having everybody watch a half an hour webinar is going to help or detract.
Okay. Another question I have is, Jennifer, do you feel like there was value in kind of having you come up with a goal for yourself starting out, or would you have rather just seen a process already in place of you're just going to learn these generic things about how to contribute to Node in general?
Great question.
I think in terms of setting I'm somebody that has to have a goal to work toward things because that's just the way I prefer to operate in my life. Not everybody is that same way. But what I think a goal, and at a very minimum, every pair should have a goal of making at least one contribution to Node.js that is accepted at a minimum. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that everybody should work, every pair should work toward. How you get there, I think should be left up to the teams to give them a little bit of flexibility to go through it and do it. What Benjamin and I did, we worked through how things worked, how things were laid out in our first couple of meetings. And only then did we start grappling with, making a contributions. And then when we did make a contributions, it was, this is where, y'all were talking about doing a video earlier, this is where it was these are our standards for making contributions. This is what you have to meet and everything else like that. So my thing, if you're going to set a goal, that should be the only goal that should be set.
That's fantastic. That also carries with it kind of the minimum requirements of becoming a member of the Node.js project. So that's there's a good reason for that as well. Since one of our, as a team, one of our objectives is to prepare folks for the possibility of them contributing and also becoming mentors in the future. Right. So in order to be a mentor, you need to be a member of the project.
Yeah, I just want to say that some of the scopes don't require any code contributions. Mm-hmm. So I get the general idea to have a goal to on how to make code contribution, a pull request, or it depends on the scope. like some of the scopes, for example, between me and Dan, we had like a scope around the ComCom. So there's no code involved.
Sure, but if you scroll back a little bit in the context of what we were doing, like you were literally contributing this program to the Node.js project. So, I think, the spirit of that requirement or that suggestion is still carries. And you could make it so there needs to be some purpose to it. And, there could be some similar level of contribution or land, it's the redesign, landing landing something in the redesign. So I think it holds.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, that makes sense. I also have another question, like it's for you, Jennifer, as a mentee. Do you feel like after the end of this cohort, are you comfortable enough to become a mentor for the next round? Like theoretically, not necessarily like you're giving like a yes that you want to, but like in experience wise, do you think you're like comfortable enough or confident enough to mentor someone with
Great question.
You asking if she feels like this process has prepared her to become a mentor potentially?
Yeah, exactly.
The short answer is no, because like we said, we only met for a little over a month. If it was the traditional 2 to 3 months, the answer would start leaning more toward yes. But that said, I think that I learned enough from Ben that I'd be crazy enough to try it. There were some things that he was able to do in the behind the scenes where, I would submit a pull request and then he would like, hold on, let me go like start the test. I don't know how to do that. There's some things that he could do that I would not be able to teach somebody else to do, but I would not be averse to having it a go. It would, of course, we'd be, training somebody as a potential mentee in the exact same area, in the test area that I worked on. If it was in any other area, no. But in that one area, I mean, I can share what I learned, with somebody else to be able to help them out.
That reminds me of a thing we talked about in the last meeting. I think it may have been David who brought it up, or possibly Adam. I think it was Adam. Mentors, someone who could be a touch point for the mentors to from time to time and see how things are going and offer support to them as a mentor. So maybe that's something we're lacking to get to where we want to be with mentees becoming mentors, is getting some kind of loose commitment from the mentors of the previous rounds to say, hey, is it okay? This is maybe something we could put on the Google form. Would you be okay with light commitment beyond your duration, where you'd be available to answer questions for mentors that want to mentor?
Yeah. That's kind of like a higher order TA. I like it.
Yeah. We can also utilize Slack for that. Like there's a channel for the mentorship team and the mentors, and people can ask questions there.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're managing expectations amongst everybody, so we're not having the mentors then have additional levels of effort that they are expected to do, because there's so we just need to be a little bit conscientious about that.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be respectful of everyone's time.
Sure.
Yeah. Time check. We have 7-ish minutes, so if there's anything that we really need to get to, we should probably prioritize that.
Yeah, for me, like I believe I have everything in mind covered for the feedback. I'm not sure if you have other questions, Dan, David, or AJ.
I feel like we should ask Ben more questions. I don't know what they are. We've asked Jennifer a lot of questions. I guess, Ben, is there anything that just freestyle you want to mention about your experience?
No, I think it was a good experience. That's what I was hoping to get out of it. I would be excited to help out again. I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see us try to enlist a few more folks from the Node project. See if we can get that collaborator list fleshed out a bit. I think that's one of the most important things we can do in the short term. And I think I said my piece about where I see the most value, and I do think it's in that getting people over the hump of their first contribution.
What about so one of the things that was really superlative about this beta cohort was the blog post that folks shared about their program, their outcome. Is there if we had, kind of a formal request up front and said, we'd love you to do a blog post, would that have hindered that, or should we spring that on folks or let that happen organically?
Well, if you're asking me, I think that it would be good to mention that up front, as make it a part of the requirements for being a mentee. Right. Your expectation is one, that you are expected to make one contribution to Node.js. Number two, we expect you to write or do video about your expectation to share with others. Now, that doesn't mean a blog article. It could be multiples. It depends on what somebody else, but having set up on there, because one of the things you've got on here, number 4, the participants' expectations, I see that's something that you can easily put in there. Nice. Like I said, I went to a coding boot camp, and literally there would be times where they were like, okay, for the next 20 minutes, every student in the class is expected to write an article, go. And at 20 minutes, they stopped, and then we would go back and start being taught on the next topic. And it was nothing more than, a media outlet where you got the name of the coding boot camp out there because all the students were writing for 20 minutes and posting on something. And so they show up in the SEO world. But I think that also that benefits others because, I was able to, and Ben hooked me up with being able to write on the Medium publication about my experience, and people reaching out and saying that they signed up as a result of reading that. And, the goal of the program is to get people to contribute. And if, they might not know that you have a mentorship program, but they might read an article on Medium and they're like, oh, okay, that opens my eyes. And so that gives you a wide range of media outlets that you can potentially reach potential people to come back and contribute, because they can just find you from different mechanisms.
Nice.
So before we end, I do have a question for you, Ben, because I really do think that the output and sort of the results of this program is really going to be limited by the number of mentors. What made you want to be a mentor? To be super crass, what's in it for you? And what ultimately, how are we going to attract mentors, I guess is what I'm getting at.
What's specifically in it for me is that I like working on open source, and I find it hard to carve time out for my own schedule. So this forced me to be thinking about open source once a week and in my own contributions. And that's the same reason that there's another mentorship conference I go to every year in Illinois, and that's similar motivation, as it's a chance to help people, but it is a chance for me to be in Illinois for a week where there's nothing to do but program. So it helps me stay sharp as well to be doing stuff like this. So that's my reason. And I do like helping people as well.
So if you were to sell somebody else, like another, Node contributor, on becoming a mentor, how would you appeal to their selfish nature?
I think teaching is one of the best ways to become a better programmer yourself. So I think it will help you learn how to contribute yourself better to the project. So it'll help you do more open source yourself.
Yeah, that's fun.
I have one more question, quick one for both of you. What was the actual time commitment? Like we said, you would try to do like 1 hour a week. What did it end up being when everything was said and done, offline and online, researching anything that was involved? What was your time commitment like?
We consistently kept to the 1 hour, maybe just a tad over every single time, every week. And then there was one Monday we didn't meet because it was actually a holiday. I don't even remember which holiday it was. It was a holiday. And we actually moved it to a few days later in the same week. But the day and the times that we scheduled for every single one, except for that one time we did meet, outside of that 1 hour time frame, I did a little bit of like writing my test scripts ahead of time so that when we met up, it would be like, here's what I've done. Let's make sure that it works. And then, modify it from there. So I would say, maybe an hour outside of the 1 hour that we met on top of that.
Okay, good.
Similarly, like there was one, I noticed just how atrocious our test coverage approach was in Node during one of our meetings, and decided to rush through some work I was doing so that our next meeting would look better on camera. So I maybe did like 3 hours of work on that outside of the cohort. But I was already working on that stuff. And then I think I did maybe 30 minutes of prep for a couple of the meetings before we had them. So probably all told, so we said we did a month and a half. So about, what's that for? So 6 hours and then probably another 3 hours, I would say.
Okay, cool. I was just trying to make sure we'd have a more accurate, tell for the next set of mentors of what they could expect to be committing to.
And that seems to be one of the key questions that I get from core contributors. They're already splitting their time working on core, doing that open source volunteering. So the thought of taking on an additional responsibility is challenging. But having that purview, that Ben's sharing of this it allows you to carve that out a little bit more explicitly and actually hold to that. I think will resonate with a lot of folks. It does with me.
Cool.
All right. So time check. We are at the top of the hour. Any closing thoughts, or shall we wrap up?
I just want to say this was extremely valuable. So thank you so much to Ben and Jennifer for showing up, and Sophia. It sounds like you'll be reaching out too. So thank you for your time as well.
And thank you.
Comments?
No, thank you for running all these meetings, AJ and Ahmed. And Dan, I guess Dan's been here for
no credit.
And I just want to throw something out if y'all want to, consider that as an option, is if you're getting ready for the next round to start up, if you want me to do like a short, AMA, ask me anything type meeting where people can just send in their questions, get online and ask, I wouldn't be, I would not mind doing something like that so that people that are interested can, just ask, I don't know, whatever people ask and, can just go through and answer them. Don't have to do it, but just if you want to do it, that's open.
That would be awesome.
That'd be really fun.
With that, I've got to run right now, but it was great meeting. Thank you, everybody, and I'll see you at the next meeting.
So, Sophia, maybe you could take that as an action item, and we could think of, how we could execute on that. I don't know if this is the right time and space to do that, or how much sort of setup time we want to do to make sure we're getting, the right folks in front of us to go coordinate that. But I think our next step is to go recruit mentors, and then after we've recruited mentors, as we're doing the pairing, I think having that AMA set up for Jennifer would be a fantastic way of getting that kickoff and getting everyone excited and engaged.
Awesome. See you, everyone.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye.